Hello, everyone, and welcome to the celebration of CS Ed Week. I'm Amanda McCammon with STEM Synergy and Keep Indiana Learning, and we are thrilled to be live all week, bringing computer science experts and resources to Indiana educators as part of the In Learning Partnership, which is a collaboration between the Department of Education, the Learning Lab, and Keep Indiana Learning. Now I want to welcome David Lockhart, educator support coach with Tynker for Schools. And his session today is Get Indiana Ready for NASA Hour of Code with Tynker. David, take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. So we're going to talk about getting Indiana ready for the Hour of Code with Tynker, and we will talk about the NASA stuff as well. My name is David Lockhart. I am as was said, I'm the educator support coach at Tynker. I'm also a former teacher and tech coach. I was a teacher for about 10 years or so. Then moved into a tech coach role with a university outside of Atlanta where I did things like I was a personalized learning coach and even built a maker bus. And I'm big guy in a bow tie on Twitter, but when you get me from the home office, no bow tie. Hopefully I'll make it up to Indiana soon. And what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about a couple of different things. We're going to talk about what is Tynker. Then we're going to talk about how Tynker and the Hour of Code are a perfect match. And then we'll really focus in on getting started. We'll open up the platform and focus in on how to keep it going, on how to get started. And then we'll look at how to keep it going and staying connected with us. So let's start off with what is Tynker. So really, as we talk about Computer Science Week, we like to think of Tynker as the easiest way to teach computer science in schools. And really, we think of it that way because there's two main principles, two main modalities that Tynker kind of runs by. The first is that we want to have the best coding tools out there. And all of this kind of evolves into our Hour of Code projects as well. So there's both block and text coding. You can go all the way from an icon-based programming for very young students into kind of an introduction to block programming and then introduction into text languages and even all the way into AP, all in the same place. And our Hour of Code activities follow that format as well. It's a comprehensive curriculum. You're going to see the curriculum that builds on itself, where kids can build on their skills and constantly practice with coding. And then the last one is really an important piece for us, where we think coding is something that everybody should learn because no matter if they're going to be a programmer, almost every profession is going to be driven by code. And so the way to do that is to have kids show what they know with code in a core class, where they're going and creating in a core class. And so there's STEM courses that kids can do where they go and they create to show what they know in science and social studies and math and ELA. And the Hour of Code has several of those lessons built in, which I'll show you in a bit. The second kind of principle modality that we live by is we want to make this as easy as possible on you. So there's lots of assessments, and you'll see kind of how you can see where kids are in the Hour of Code activities, and you can see the projects that they create as they go. We also want it to be something that's very familiar to you. So it's built on a classroom management structure, similar to a learning management system like Canvas or Schoology or Google Classroom or Teams or the multitude of others, where you create a class and you assign lessons. And then there's a whole bunch of professional development that you can do outside of this. And so we'll kind of show you that towards the end. And really, as kids are coding, we think of this as, can we empower kids to be makers? Can we get them to do what's natural to the human spirit? What I know I needed as a student, and I know what my kids, when I was a teacher, did the best with. And so there's both block and text coding here. Like we said, kids can build games and stories and animations to show what they know in any class, and then they can transition that to doing it in things like Python and JavaScript. You look at it from augmented reality standpoint, there's lots of content as far as augmented reality where kids can go and they can build Pokemon Go style games. They can code in Minecraft Education Edition as a way to make. And then two, really to have that kind of full program, you also want to have that touchable, tactile feel for it. And so Tynker connects with Paradrones and Lego WeDo. And then also that microbit, which is one of my favorite pieces of maker hardware out there, because the idea is that this is a little microcontroller that you can plug in things like lights and sensors and motors to, and you can build almost anything with it. But it's accessible enough for kids that are as young as third grade to really get started with it. And Tynker in the Hour of Code, really, it's a perfect match. Everything that we kind of live by and those kind of principles that we live by really kind of play out in our Hour of Code content as well. But before we talk kind of about how Tynker sets in, what is the actual Hour of Code? The Hour of Code, the why kind of behind it is that it's this global movement to bring excitement and awareness to computer science. And it usually happens around this week where lots of schools are coding and they're bringing their kids in and coding on a special kind of celebration week. And really, when you look at it, it's brought a lot to the computer science education field because it's one of the reasons that we have standards now. It's getting kids excited about it, where they want to go and they want to code and they want to create. And so you can see this week kind of being an important piece as we try to bring computer science forward in all of our states. And really, Tynker fits into the Hour of Code incredibly well, because it's going to be easy to manage your students. And I'll show you that in just a second, where again, it's that whole idea. Can you create a class and can you assign lessons? And then it's also accessible. It goes and you can actually do this on any device that you have, and it's self-paced. And I think that's a really important piece with the Hour of Code is you want kids to be able to go and find something that's engaging, that challenges them at their level, and having something that's self-paced allows different kids in the same class to do different bits of content. And then as we look at content, there really is something for everyone here, something for every student at every level. And so how do we get started? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull out of the slide deck and I'm going to jump over to my dashboard and we're going to just do it from Tynker as a whole. So we're going to come over here and we're going to jump over to the Tynker dashboard. And the first thing to note is that the way that you would want to go to get started is you'd actually want to go to tynker.com, and I'll put it up real big on screen. You want to go to tynker.com and you want to click login in this top right corner. So that's the first thing that you want to do. And you're logging in as a teacher. So I'm going to go to tynker.com. I'm going to click login. I'm going to get rid of the big one. And I'm going to click login over here. And it's really easy to get started because I'm going to click teacher, and the vast majority, almost all of you, I would assume, if not all of you, have either a Google or a Microsoft School account. So all you have to do to get started is come down here to the bottom, and there's a Google button, there's a Microsoft button. If you click whichever one it is, mine's going to be a Google account, and you log in with your existing district credentials. That's all you have to do to get in and kind of build that class out. And I'll show you in a little bit how you can actually start Hour of Code without building a class, but really you want to do that because it's going to give you, number one, it's going to give you more of the Hour of Code activities. It'll let you continue coding forward. And then two, you'll be able to see progress, you'll be able to see the projects, and really you can celebrate the kids in a different way. Now, when I first log into the platform, I'm either going to have this screen, which means I already have classes. It's over here on my classes, and each of these cards is a class, or it's going to join me right to the place, and this is going to make me enable Google Classroom. If you have Google Classroom and you want to do this through Google Classroom, I'll walk you through that step in a second, but you always want to enable the permissions. But if you log in for the first time, it's going to take you to a screen that looks something similar to this. And really, this depends on how you log in. If I log in with a Google account, I have that link Google Classroom button. If I log in through Clever, so you have to start at Clever, not at tynker.com, that link Google Classroom button becomes a link Clever Classroom button. If I log in with a Microsoft account or I just go to tynker.com and create a username and password, you're just going to have this create new classroom button. And so there's several different ways that you can set up a class that are really formulate depending on what grade level you have, what type of student you have, kind of your formula for hour of code. There's several ways you can do it. The first is with Google Classroom. And all this is that if you have a Google Classroom, if you use Classroom, you just click link Google Classroom, and it's going to give you a drop-down menu of your classes. I have a couple of classes listed in here. You pick a class, you pick a grade level, and that's all you have to do to get your kids started. The kids will be able to access Hour of Code through their Google Classroom, because what it's going to do is it's going to take your Google Classroom roster and it's going to set up a Tynker classroom based off of it. And then two, because you're using your Google accounts in Google Classroom, they could also go to tynker.com and sign in with their Google account as well. That's all you have to do to get started. Another way that I'm going to come back out over here to my classes. Another way that you can get started is that if you're a Clever teacher, if your district's enabled Tynker and Clever together, this will say link Clever Classroom, and it's the same process. You go, you click what roster you want, what grade level, click finished, and then the kids can just log in through Clever and they can just get started. That's all they have to do. If you're not either one of those, you're probably going to use this create new classroom button. And this will actually give you a couple of different options. So I'm just going to give it a class name. I'm going to give it a grade level, and I'm going to click next. And this is going to give me a couple of different options here. Now, when I look at this, the first option really puts the onus on the student to join the class, or puts the onus on the teacher. I always get it mixed up. Sorry. The student email option puts the onus on the teacher to join the student to the class, because all you're going to do is you're going to literally take the kids' Google or Microsoft emails, and they don't have to have Drive or email. For instance, if you have younger students like my son is, who they start off with a Microsoft account, it's basically a Microsoft account. It will work as well. And you're just going to paste those usernames in here. You're just going to paste those email addresses in here. And then kids can go to tynker.com, they click login, and then they can log in with either their Google or their Microsoft account. I'm going to come back to username and password, because you also have a class code. And the class code is the one that puts the onus more on the student, because the idea is that the kids go to tynker.com, they click login, and then they use their Google or Microsoft login. And once they sign in with their existing credentials, it'll ask them, are they a school or a home student? They're a school student, and then it'll ask them to input a class code. The other option is that if you just want to get kids started, like you're in a big media center and you're just like, I want to get kids going, but I want them to have full access. I want them to be able to have certificates and all of that kind of stuff, is you can also create usernames and passwords for students. Now, Tynker has been around for a while, so if it's like B. Smith, it's probably already used. But one of the ways you can do it really, really quickly to get kids on is down here. There's a link, and there's a link that says auto generate, and I need to go back a minute so I can show you it a little bit better. Down underneath that field, there's a link that says auto generate. You can just literally auto generate out a bunch of logins. So right here where it says auto generate, if I click that, it's right here. If I click that, I can actually just generate out, I don't know, if you had 60 kids coming into your media center ready for Hour of Code, we'll say 74, hit generate, and now I have all those logins for students. And all I have to do to get the kids started is click finish, and it's going to create that class for me. I can go to the student page of that class and I can print all of those out, and I'll show it to you. Let me make sure I put demo class, so it's going to be, I got to find the right one. It's this one. If you click on that class card and you go to the students page of that class, all those 74 logins are there. And all I have to do to get kids started is scroll down to the bottom, hit print student login cards. And what's nice is I can actually print out the login cards for the usernames and passwords. But for my younger students, there's also that QR code. So I can also give them a QR code that they can just scan and log in to get started on Hour of Code. Now, once that class is created, and there's a couple of different ways to do that, that's really all you have to do to get started with Hour of Code, because the Hour of Code is actually already assigned to that class. Once students log in and they click that class, they can jump right into the Hour of Code work. Because if I come over here to the lessons page of this class, you'll notice there's 2 different class cards with Hour of Code. And I'll talk about content in just a minute. But if they click on one of those class cards, it's going to jump them right into our Hour of Code assignments. If they click on Return to the Moon, which is what your Lunch and Learn on Thursday is going to focus on, it'll jump them right into our NASA project. So lots and lots of content there, and we'll get to that in just a minute. You also have a grade book. So as kids are starting to work on that content, there is an Hour of Code page in the grade book where you can actually see any of the progress that students have made. So if students are working through that Hour of Code content, it'll go in this grade book, it'll check box, and you can see, are they actually doing that work? You can also see an attendance tab in the grade book. And this is a really good indicator for Hour of Code. Because if kids are going home, if I have them in class and I see them log in class, but I check this attendance tab and they go home and I see them doing it at home too, that shows that they're really excited about coding, which is what we really want with the Hour of Code. Another part is that some of our Hour of Code lessons are projects. There are things that kids can create. And once you have that class built, as soon as a kid saves that project, it's going to show up in this projects page. And so you'll be able to see exactly what the students are doing as far as that content goes. So really, you can actually go and have them just, once you create that class, just have them log in. If I click on the Lessons tab and I click View Lessons, even as a teacher, I can see all of the teacher resources. I can see a teacher guide. I can go and access any of that content. But to show you what content's there, I'm actually going to jump over to a different page. And I'll put it up real big. I believe it's... Actually, I thought I had it pulled up, but we'll pull it up real quick. I'm going to jump over to our public Hour of Code page. And again, you can use this one for Hour of Code. I think it may actually want me to log out is what it looks like. That's fine. You can use this one for Hour of Code. I typically show what content's here out of this one just because it's a little bit cleaner view. But you still want kids to log in because that's what saves their projects. That's what shows you the progress. And that's how you can kind of evolve things forward. Now, there is tons of content here. I think one of the ones that we're going to focus on the most, I want to start with NASA because you guys are actually doing a Lunch and Learn on Thursday where you're going to have folks from NASA that'll get on there and they'll talk about kind of the real world implications from it. And this NASA partnership, what it evolves to is that you have lots of projects that kids can do to really learn NASA concepts here. The first is one of my favorites. It's this Martian weather station where it's a data analysis project in Python where kids will actually go and compare data from the Mars rover to one of the deserts in the United States. Earth is Art is also brand new. And it's a really cool project where kids get to take imagery from NASA and they get to go and make artwork out of it in Python. You look at Terrain Generator. Can kids go and use processing languages like P5.js in order to build mountains and deserts and do all of those things for the Hour of Code? And then you have lots of kind of storytelling oriented ones. You have Design a Mission Patch where kids can do graphic design around a mission patch and they can actually even do it in Spanish. And then there's things like Lunar Test Drive and Search and Scan and Rover Relay and Build a Lunar Habitat where they can use some of those space graphics to really tell a lunar story really easily. And again, one of the things that's really nice here is that if you have kids that are ready for block, you have block projects. If you have kids that are ready for text, you have text projects. And you can kind of combine them together if you need to in a class that you have both. Another one that I truly, one of my favorites too, on top of NASA, is that we have lessons connected to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And what this is if you've never seen them, that it's 17 goals that the world has laid out, that the UN's laid out for the world by 2030. Those goals really hit every core subject area. So they hit math with data, they hit science or ELA with literacy, they are environmental issues, so it hits science, and then there's political issues, so it hits social studies. So it's a great creative generator for any core class. And so we have a couple of lessons based around those sustainable development goals. And again, one of the key concepts here is that you have both block and you have a text language. So I have block like Life on Land, and then I have text language like Python. I can do both. There's also this new one that honestly, it released today, so I'm just going to be straight up honest. I don't know that much about it. I haven't played with them a bunch, but I'm sure they're super cool because they're brand new. You can actually have kids build their own platforming games with these couple. This is a new arcade builder that we've just released. And two, and really I talked about like at the start where this is about, can we get kids creating in core classes? And so you have those STEM lessons where kids can go and they can build and create in a core, in a math, a social studies, a science, and an ELA classroom. And as we talk about professional development, what you'll also see is that you can actually customize these in some of our professional development units and lessons. And then the last tab, I'm going to come over here to block. The text coding lessons are in here too, to kind of show you all the other stuff that's here. And again, it's something for every grade level. You look at things like Candy Quest, Barbie, Space Quest, and Puppy Adventure for our very young students. Very engaging, kind of puzzle-based lessons for kids that reading skills are still developing a little bit. You look at things like Dragon Blast and Dragon Dash and Code Commander and Code Monsters, which gives you options for kind of your more advanced block coding students. If you have kids that just want to start and they want to explore text languages, Counterhack and Toxic Jungle are very entry-level JavaScript and Python lessons. You look at Monster High and Hot Wheels, characters that kids know. And then as I scroll down further, you get something like Crystal Clash. Crystal Clash is this really cool collaborative coding game where the kids actually have to build more code and improve their character to be successful. You have things like Pets and Cooking and Change the World where kids can tell a story really easily. We've covered some of the other ones. You have more text coding lessons like Draw a Landscape and Superhero Mask. You have more characters kids know like Peep in the Big World. As you scroll down a little further, you even have some game design ones, things like Physics Cannon and Brick Breaker and Undersea Arcade and Bird Mayhem. You have art based ones, Spin Draw and Pattern Maker, and then another storytelling one in Tell a Joke. Really, the content is just, there's lots and lots and lots of content there for you to get started with the Hour of Code. And as you get kids started, one of the things that really kind of stands out is too, you can actually award them as they go. Because in my teacher dashboard, in that class, what I can do is I can actually give them awards. There's certificates that print out every time a kid does an Hour of Code lesson. And there's this really neat one. This class doesn't have any in it because it's a brand new class we just built. But there's a really neat one where once kids do one of the NASA lessons, they actually get a NASA-based certificate with a NASA astronaut. It's really neat. You can also share progress through the showcase. So I can go and I can actually, let me show you a class that actually has some projects in it. But I can actually, in the showcase, there's a button where I can share those out publicly. If I click over here, the basic idea is there's a button, it'll share it out publicly. You can take a URL, and the URL is one that only shares pseudonyms. It does not share any student data, and my computer screen's giving me a little bit of trouble here, but that's okay. And so as you look at the showcase, we'll click over to it real quick because it's a great way to give kids recognition. If you can share it out to a public URL, that way the kids can see, the parents can see their projects, kids can see their projects, and you can go from there. If I click on that showcase tab, I think it's because I'm logged out. I think I logged out a little wrongly here, but that's okay. There's a button on those projects in there. On the projects tab, you click that project button, it'll share to the showcase, and you can share it with a public URL. Now, as far as kind of what we would love to see you move with us going forward is you guys have a code lab on Thursday. And the code lab Thursday is going to actually give you, you're going to jump on there with one of the NASA folks. I believe it's somebody from Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. It's on 12/9. It's the same time, same bat time, same bat channel, 11:25 Eastern. And this QR code will take you directly to a place where you can ask questions for it. So you'll be able to ask questions of the NASA employee, and then we're going to do a live coding project, one of the NASA projects as we go. And then the last thing is we also want to kind of help you stay connected. If you want to kind of see Tynker as you go further out there and you want to keep coding going throughout the year. And so we would love for you to join our community. So we have a Twitter account. It's at GoTynker. And there's also a great Facebook community as well. And I'll pause for a brief second here. So if you want to take a brief screenshot of that, you can. And then I'll talk a little bit about like how to get support as the hour of code goes. How do I actually get more support, have things if needed. So take a brief screenshot here, and then we'll look at a couple of different other places you can go for support and to get a little bit more information too, because I know 30 minutes is a really quick time frame. And so as you look at support, really there's 3 different avenues that I want to kind of bring out. The first is the Tynker blog. And really with the Tynker blog, the reason I say the Tynker blog is because it'll give you all of our hour of code events. It's just tynker.com/blog. There's an hour of code blog post. And if you want to have your kids do even more with NASA folks, we actually have live sessions for the entire country all week. And so you can schedule a time, you can schedule to be there for that time as well. If you get stuck, if there's any problems that you have or something's not going right, you can always do educator support at tynker.com. You can email us there. We are very quick with that. We want to make sure that our teachers feel supported and loved, especially in this weird time that we're all in. And then if you want more training, there's tynker.com/training, which will give you training in Tynker from everything A to Z. And really is where you can find some sessions about about how to build custom projects. And you can also get Tynker certified. So I'll leave that up for a second, and then I'll kind of wrap up real quick and talk about and recap real quick, and then we'll be done with Lunch and Learn for the day. If I have a second, I'll go back and show the showcase too, since the showcase decided to be mean to me. All right, so let's recap real quick. Yep. We talked about what is Tynker. So we talked about it's both those great coding tools and easy on teachers, especially for the hour of code. We talked about how the Tynker and the hour of code is a perfect match. It's accessible. There's lots of content there. There's something for everybody. You'll see text and block content. We talked about how to get it started, how to go and build a class. And once you build that class, all those lessons for hour of code are already assigned. And those hour of code lessons have lots in them. There's NASA lessons. There's UN Sustainable Development Goals lessons. There's the new arcade maker, which I haven't even had a chance to play with yet. There's STEM lessons, and really there's content for everybody. And then we kind of talked about how to keep it going and how to stay connected with us, where you can get more training and you can keep it going throughout the year. And so just because I have like 2 minutes left, hopefully the showcase will be a little nicer to me so I can show it to you and show you how to share it. I always love when you do a demo and something busts on you a little bit. The basic idea is that when you go and you look at the hour of code is, can you share that out publicly and can you show what your school is doing? And so as you look at the showcase, if I click into this class and I go to the projects page of the class, this should load a little bit better. I was signed in poorly. You'll notice there's a showcase button on each of these projects. If I click over to showcase, if I click that button, it's going to add it to this next tab. And then that's where I can get that public URL. And I can share it out with pseudonyms where I can show my administration the stuff we're doing hour of code. I can show, even if I'm advocating for more computer science, it's a great way to do that. You can also share it out privately with just the class if you need to. And then the last one too is that if you want to give parents and show parents what your kids are doing, you can also add parents to this over here where it says guardians. You just click the plus sign, you go and give them the name, email, and then if I check off that button, I can actually email parents progress reports. So that's really all I had. I know, Amanda, are you coming back on to say? There she is. She didn't even have to. I didn't even have to ask too much.
That's right. Thanks so much, David and Tynker. There's so much good stuff here. Lots of ways for our educators across Indiana to to grab something immediately and use it this week for CS Ed Week and Hour of Code. So thank you so much, David and Tynker, for sharing that information with us today. And I know you're going to join us again later this week. Educators, remember to tune in each day. This week for CS Ed Week, we are going to go live every day at 11:30 for more computer science short, what we're calling lunch and learns, because you can just hop on while you're eating your lunch, hopefully, and get something that you can immediately implement into your classroom with your kiddos for Hour of Code or Computer Science Education Week to engage your students around computer science. Thursday, we will actually have a little bit of a longer session. We'll have our lunch and learn at 11:30, and then we'll be coming back live at 1 o'clock from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, where we will offer lots of other great computer science content. So please join us there. And just a real quick note to say thank you to all the Indiana educators for tuning in not only today and this week, but also for everything you do every single day in serving our youth and families. Thanks so much and have a great day.